Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it technically one more minute, but we'll give us a moment to gather. We're saying Shabbat Shalom. And so good to see everybody. I was away last week, and it's so good to see everyone back again and to know that you are there and joining us for our Erev Shabbat celebration for Congregation Beth-El. I am Rabbi Jenny Greenspan and joined on our virtual Bima this evening by Cantor Melissa Cohen. And it's just so good to see everybody. We will go ahead and get started in just a minute. But as usual, I want to make sure you know where to access the resources to help follow along with this evening's service. So if you'll go over on a tab in your web browser to bez613.org, and under the worship menu, you can find the virtual Shabbat resources, and you will there go ahead and grab the song sheet for this evening's service, as well as the PDF of our Sidur Kol HaNeshama, if you don't have a hard copy of that Sidur at home, but always worth grabbing the song sheet either way. So we'll say Shabbat Shalom and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us. And as our opening, we will say Shalom Aleichem, welcome and Shalom to the angels of Shabbat. You can follow along in the Sidur, either physical or PDF, on page 13 of the Kol HaNeshama prayer book.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech malachi hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu baruchuni leshalom malachi hashalom malachi elyon mi melech malachi hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzitchem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech, Malachi HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shalom Aleichem. We've said welcome. We invite these angels to be with us in peace throughout Shabbat as we mark our time. Let us welcome in Shabbat itself. I'll invite you to join me in the blessing for the candles and for the lighting of Shabbat candles on page 5 and 4 of our Kol HaNeshama prayer book. And this week I get to sing one. So join me on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, source of light, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the Shabbat lights. Continue with the blessings of marking our time and welcoming Shabbat with Kiddush on page 119, followed by Hamotzi, which the cantor will lead for us. When she unmutes. Oh, we got to unmute the cantor. Page 119.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hakafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav beratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron ma'aseh bereshit. Ki hu yom techila lemigrahe kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki banu bakarta ve'otanu kidashta mikol amim בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. לחיים.
Chaim. Follow it with the hamotzi. Do you have your challah cantor?
I don't.
I don't have the challah with me here.
I will be happy to lead the blessing for everybody.
Go for it, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Those enjoying your meal with us, Beth-EL, enjoy your challahs. For those like me who've got others in the house cooking it for later, Beth-EL then. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll enjoy our Shabbat meals and our Shabbat time together. And let us always remember the blessing of the family and those surrounding us in person and those we see across the screens. And so I would like to guide us in offering blessings to our families. If your families are somewhere on one of the other screens, look over to them or reach out an arm around those with you whom you love and want to bless. For any sons we bless, we say Yivarechecha Yisimcha Elohim Ke'Ephraim V'chi Menashe. May you be like Ephraim and Menashe, the sons of Joseph. For our daughters, Yisimech Elohim Kesara Rivka Rachel V'Leah. May you be like our foremothers, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And for all those whom we love and wish to bless, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and protect you. May God show you favor and be gracious to you. May God show you kindness and grant you peace. Say amen. We offer a big hug and kiss to any near us whom we are blessed to be with this Shabbat. And we continue moving in as we move into the Ma'ariv portion, into the evening service portion of our service with Psalm 29 found on page 37 and 39 of our Kol HaNeshama prayer book.
Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtakavu Adonai behadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod yirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai b'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arasim, Vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon. Vayarkidem kemo hegel Levanon, Besiryon kemo ben re'emim, kemo ben re'emim. Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yechol layalot, Vayecheso v'yarot, uvechalo kulo merkavot, Adonai lamabul Yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech le'olam, Adonai os le'am lo yitein, Adonai yevarech, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
The voices of everything reach out and thank God. We say in Psalm 92, Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is good to give thanks to God for all that we have and all that we've learned and all the ways that we grow. And so we turn to page 49 for Tov lehodot, Psalm 92.
Mizmor shir, shir liyom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot Adonai, ולזמר לשמך העליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות.
We have welcomed Shabbat and thank God for our time together. We now say Lecha Dodi. We go out and greet the Shabbat excitedly as though she is a bride here interspersed in our community, bringing us all together this Shabbat. Page 41 for the first stanza and 47 for the concluding of Lecha Dodi, 41 and 47.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, peni Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, peni Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, yishmihanu el hameyuchad Adonai echad. ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת
It's so good to be together to welcome Shabbat. And so we look around at one another and we say, Hine matov, how good it is. Umanayim, how pleasant to be sitting together. Sing along from our spaces with Hine matov.
Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
As we have come together, and as Shabbat has brought us together, we also note faith, the tradition, the God that has brought us together as we turn to the declaration of the oneness of our God with Shema and V'ahavta on page 65, which we'll do together and conclude on page 73.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבביך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם באמת.
We turn to page 79 for Micha Mocha. I think for a moment, if you look in the commentary, in our Siddur, we're reminded of the daily miracles, and Micha Mocha, a celebration of the large miracles of splitting of the Red Sea, also invites us to remember the small miracles of our everyday life and joy and freedom with Micha Mocha, page 79.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא, תהילתו ספל, מלכותך ובניך, בוקעם לפני משה זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלום יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
This moment in our service, think of those who need healing and shelter and a little extra care from us as a community through our prayers. And so we say, God of our ancestors, as you have cared for the children of Israel, we ask you to care for our beloved community members who are in need of healing. This week as a community, we think of Jim Fleischer, Shirley Steinman, Ron Safran, Aaron Linderman, Rick Malachi, Lisa Sachs, Bonnie Kaplan, Larry Baker, Roger Lord, Dr. Doug Packer, Levi Chisholm, Brian Donor, Angela Fry, Amy Maurer-Martin, Andrew Reed, Aaron Greenwald, Lorraine Greenberg, Danielle Sasson, Vera Uber, Peter Fox, Leica Miriam Batriva, Branka Zebolin, Rachel Dill, Carol Spur, Robin Zacharias, Bruce Jacobson, Lindsay Yagi, Shulamit Batshana Geltel, Bibi Weinstein, David Owen, Alan Mayer, Herb and Melba Heller, Jane Bashir, Mike Winigman, Andrea Lipp, Marcia Regenstreif, Phyllis Schwartz, Rebecca Berger, David Waldman, and Ray Waldman. Cantor sings the prayer, which can be found on our song sheet. I invite those who haven't already begun to do so, who are comfortable sharing any additional names in the chat of any names you are also holding close as we do our prayer for healing this evening.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us stay. Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu, mekor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen, dear God, for all those mentioned aloud and in the chat and all those names we hold close. Please be with them in their times of sickness and suffering. Treat them with compassion and guard them safely through danger, lending them a portion of your strength. Now turn to page 85 for the biblical verses calling upon Shabbat for Veshamru, page 85.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם, אלי ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
The invitation of Shabbat Vayi Nafash, the invitation of rest and of restoring our souls. We now take a moment to have a little bit of a silent Amidah space, a moment of quiet, individual, reflective prayer. Just a few moments to reflect on the weeks we have had, the week we hope to have. A few moments of quiet prayer for Amidah.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
So this week we have the observance of can't even quite call it a holiday, the observance of a day of mourning, Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, which is traditionally seen as the day on which we mourn all of the destructive things that have happened to our people, the destructions of both temples, the expulsion from Spain, the many, many experiences of anti-Semitism that we have experienced as a people over the many years. And we take a moment to mourn. We take a moment to recognize that sometimes we have to pause and grieve. There's been a little bit, very slight and leading into it, a mournful tone in some of the melodies. I don't know if that was intentional, Cancer. In preparing for this Shabbat, which is often called Shabbat Hazon, borrowed from the first word of tomorrow morning's Haftarah, the Haftarah that always leads us into Tisha B'Av, into that 9th of Av, which asks for us to have vision, asks for us to recognize that even as we mourn and grieve, that sometimes we have to experience that and allow it to make us grow and become even stronger. And so tonight, our song for inspiration comes from the texts which we will read tomorrow evening. You can join me for some selections of the Book of Lamentations. We end that book, a very devastating and mournful book, on a hopeful note, where we reach out to God and say, God, help us return to you. And with that help, we will return and we can be renewed and we can allow our grief to help us to grow. I invite you to join in the song Hashivenu, the closing verse of the Book of Lamentations, and which is on our song sheet that the cantor will lead us in. Hashivenu.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai elecha, benashuva, benashuva, Chadish
also recognize that sometimes our mourning isn't quite as large as the tragedies for a full people, as an entire people of Israel, but rather sometimes just much closer to home. We know that when we recite the Mourner's Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our world. We know that much of our own experience of divine goodness, grace, and love has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. This week, we extend condolences to Stephen Roth, Alicia Roth, Nathan Roth, and their families on the death of their beloved mother and grandmother, Beth Roth, as well as to Stephen Preston, Christine Burge, Michelle Preston, Gertrude Dwyer, and their families on the death of their beloved mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother and sister, Armilda Williams. We continue to extend condolences to the family of Douglas Welcher. Those families are in the acute mourning periods of Shiv'ah and Shloshim. I invite them and all who are mourning, all who are observing Yartzeit, and all who would choose to do so to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 131 of our Siddur. You can rise if you are able, and it is your custom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam umei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yahei shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. We may be seated as we conclude the screen sharing and send our condolences to all those who are in mourning and who are holding on to the memory of a loved one, especially this evening. And we will, before we do our concluding song of Yigdal this evening, to make sure we are all aware of the goings on of the congregation. This week will be the last time I will do Torah Talk at 9:30 on Facebook Live, as I am thrilled that we have been able to do our 10 o'clock services, not only on live stream, but also in person. And it's been wonderful to have us back home again at Beth-El Zedek. And so I will, starting next week, move the Facebook Torah Talk option up to 9 o'clock to allow those who'd like to be able to do both some time to actually get from your homes to the synagogue. I saw the feedback that was needed. I just got back from vacation this afternoon, so I haven't adjusted my timing just yet. So we'll do one more round at 9:30, and I will remind then as well that beginning next week, we will do a 9 o'clock. And it is, of course, always recorded. So if 9 o'clock is a little too early for you, you are welcome to still wait until 9:30 to watch and greet and say hello to everyone. So we will keep Torah Talk going this week one more time at 9:30, next week at beginning next week at 9 o'clock, always on Facebook Live, just on our Beth-El Zedek Facebook page. And again, we are thrilled to offer that you could join us in person back home again at Beth-El Zedek at 10 o'clock, or you may still continue to use the live stream on the bez613.org page. And in observance of Tisha B'Av, tomorrow evening, we'll do a small program, just a little bit of thinking about the holiday or the observance of Tisha B'Av and reading some selections from the book of Eicha, the book of Lamentations. We'll do this on Zoom at 7 o'clock. You know, often we do our religious gatherings at 6, but we're told we're not supposed to rush into to morning. So we'll do it at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening on Zoom. You can find that link in our emails and on the Facebook page as well. So lots of ways to join us tomorrow at 9:30 on Facebook, at 10 o'clock in person, and at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And hello to the baby. So say Shabbat Shalom. Anything to add announcement-wise, Cantor? Before we...
No, I'm just pleased to see everybody tonight and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom. And yes, there was there was just a hint of lamenting, that lamenting tone tonight, as is tradition and custom for the Shabbat that precedes Tisha B'Av, Shabbat Chazon. And so I notably did not sit at the piano tonight to sit and just make it a little bit more introspective this evening as we enter that time.
Noticed and felt, and perfect for this particular Shabbat. Thank you. We will conclude this evening's service with our closing song of Yigdal on page 135 and 137 of our Siddur, and then we can all say Shabbat Shalom to one another.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא בעיני אל מציאותו אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף לא נערוך אליו קדושתו קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו הינו אדון עולם בכל נוצר יורה גדולתו ומלכותו שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את תמונתו תורת אמת נתן לעמו אל על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו לעולמים זולתו צופה ויודע צאתנו מביט לעשות דבר בקדמתו כומר לאיש חסד כן מפעלו ייתן לרשעה קדישתו ישלח לקץ ימין גאולתו לפדות מחכה את ישועתו חיים מכלכל ברוב חסדו ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו חיים מכלכל ברוב חסדו ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו.
Shabbat Shalom. So good to see everyone here. We will be here on Zoom again next week with Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
That's your private choir?
Right. Oh my gosh. Mark just got back from
Hi, Hamilton.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Everybody
Hamilton.
say hi, Hamilton.
Hi,
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Hi, Hamilton.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Mom. Where's my
Hamilton's
daughter?
so cute.
Your daughter is in the other room. Can't wait to see you guys soon.
Yay.
Couldn't show up on the video?
Nope. Okay.
Hamilton, our dogs heard you, Hamilton. They bark.
They said Hamilton Shabbat greetings, our dogs.
He hasn't made an appearance in a long time on Shabbat Zoom. So here we go. So here he is. Could barely
Shabbat
see
Shalom,
him.
Hamilton.
Oh, Shabbat Shalom.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow night.
Bye-bye.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.